The level of ass-pullery. And then for the remainder, anything after that, they're watered down, they're shells of themselves, they're getting stabbed, they're getting caught off guard, captured, sealed away inside of fucking pots. They're babies. Give him his arm back. He has no depth perception. I don't see him being very useful.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today we got Boruto chapter 53. It's going to be an interesting chapter because the first thing that we see in chapter 53 is Ishiki pulling Kawaki through space from the Leaf Village to where he and Naruto and Sasuke are fighting now. This is due to the fact that Kawaki's prosthetic arm is circulating Naruto's chakra, which then allows Ishiki to use it as like a conduit of some kind and sync with Kawaki and pull him straight through space. Don't really understand it, but it's cool. I'm not worried about it. Anyway, clearly niggas are surprised. A motto on page 3 is like, if he gets to implant Kawaki with another karma, then it's all over. You get this verbal banter between the two as Naruto lies there on the ground before he has to basically yell at this man to run, which you would have already assumed at this point he would have already did, but nah. He continues to entertain this man's conversation, and to a degree I get it, but after the beating Ishiki took last chapter, you got all of 5 minutes left to live. You'd assume he'd keep the monologues to a minimum, but he just keeps going on, and finally on page 7, Kawaki finally gets busy and starts running, but at that point it's too late, you know? To a degree I get it. He might have some sort of understanding that we have to wear this man's lifespan out and not attack him. I don't know how, because that information wasn't privy to him before getting there, because he was in the hideout with Amato and Naruto found that technique out last chapter. Kawaki was nowhere to be found, and Naruto has not told him since being teleported to the area right now. He has no reason to be stalling with a conversation if that's like the thought process that you want to have regarding why he's actually entertaining this man's convo. But at this point, it's too late. Ishiki appears in front of him. He grabs him by the neck and is about to start, the karma jutsu technique or whatever you want to call it, and implants it onto Kawaki. But before he can actually perform it, Sasuke swaps him and Kawaki out with each other, and now Ishiki has a hold of Sasuke instead of Kawaki, and Kawaki's at a very respectable, safe distance, not too far, but from what we see on page 9, homie should be able to put some distance between him and Ishiki as Sasuke holds, Ishiki off for the remainder of the time before his life is up. You would expect that that's what would happen, right? No. This is where I knew Kishimoto was back writing, because the level of ass-pullery starts flooding in, right? Is very impressive, right? Now keep this in mind. Before I go any further, keep this in mind. I don't mind what's happening in Boruto currently, now that Kishimoto is back. I really did speculate that he would come back because, one, his other series he was writing, Samurai 8, yeah, that was axed, and he probably still does really want to continue writing a series. He just didn't want to write anything involving Naruto again, so he passed that off to whoever, Kadachi. He passed that off to Kadachi, and he was writing Samurai 8, but then the sales weren't doing well for Samurai 8, just like the sales aren't doing well for Boruto, and he had to make a choice. Axe Samurai 8, and I'm going to come back and pick up Boruto because, hey, my name sells, okay? Doesn't matter what it is. If my name's attached to it, it's going to sell. Hopefully, that's the plan. As long as it's Naruto related, it's going to sell, because Samurai 8 wasn't selling. But, 2. Naruto and Sasuke look like complete shit in this series, and that's not even disputable. Other than the fight with Momoshiki and the first fight with Ishiki, kind of, they look like complete shit in every other aspect. And honestly, to a degree, they look like shit in the fight against Ishiki the first time too. And the second time, if we're being honest, like if Naruto didn't have that Kurama mode that we saw, it was looking absolutely terrible for them. They're constantly on the brink of death. They're being captured, they're being sealed, not getting limbs back at the beginning of the series for whatever reason. I know they gave us a reason, but come on. Like, there's really no reason for Sasuke to not have an arm. Give him his arm back. I know we have a reason why he doesn't get his arm back, but I'm saying that the reason is trash. The reason being what it is trash. It's a trash reason. Let's get back to this review. I know Kishimoto was overseeing Boruto, and I know he was signing off on these things back when he had Samurai 8 to entertain him. Now he is fully invested in Boruto, and this chapter is a showing of a man trying to save his characters. How is it that on page 9, Sasuke is like, hey Kawaki, pick that up and throw it at your feet? He does, and Ishiki is like, why? I have a Byakugan. And I'm like that too. I'm like, yo, that doesn't make sense. He has a Byakugan. He's just going to see through the smoke and pick him off. It's child's play. Then we see on page 13, Sasuke's like, it's a mineral dust that obstructs clairvoyance. What? Nigga, what? But in my head, I'm like, Kishimoto's trying to save his manga. Kishimoto's trying to save his manga. Kishimoto's trying to save his manga. Fuck it, keep reading, Micah, keep reading. So moving forward, the next 2 pages, Ishiki is like having a full-blown temper tantrum as he's realizing he can't find Kawaki because of this dust that apparently is strong enough to stop eyes that can see through literal internal organs, something as microscopic as chakra points, or just straight through you altogether. A dust on this planet is strong enough to stop eyes that powerful. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You can't get me to believe it's okay. He could have gotten it from another dimension. We know he can jump dimensions. We don't know to what degree that extends to, but we know it's possible. It could be a mineral from off of the planet, and yes, Sasuke would be the one to have it. I'm just pointing out that it's very convenient he has a dust and has told nobody about it in order to mass produce it, in order to help with the protection of the civilians of the entire planet. Sasuke, where was this when you was fighting Momoshiki with the 5 Kages and y'all was getting ran through? Where was this during the attack during the Chunin exams, right? Where was this during the first fight against Ishiki? You hear what I'm saying? Like, where was this? It should have appeared before. But again, I understand that Kishimoto is now back. That was Kadachi's writing. This is Kishimoto's writing. And it's completely different. He is going to have to retcon a lot of stuff that we've seen thus far, especially stuff that has been built up, in my opinion, leaning towards the death of Naruto or Sasuke, or if not both of them altogether. But you really couldn't have killed them both off, because as long as the Otsutsukis are a thing, you need to have at least one of them around in order to combat them. Let's keep moving. So like I said, he was having a temper tantrum about not being able to find Kawaki. Not only that, it's just dust. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's just a smokescreen. It has a limited range. You see on page 14, you see Ishiki fly into the air, and you'd assume he would just go look for Kawaki, right? No, he has a temper tantrum in the sky. A smokescreen cannot be that big. And you're in a relatively, flat landy area. Just fly in the air and catch him. He doesn't have a karma mark, so he's not that strong. He barely knows any form of ninjutsu. Just go get him. That's all you have to do. If you fly high enough in the air, you can see him. If you go back to page 9, you can see that they're all within visible eye range of each other. Ishiki flying into the air should just be able to just go and find him. On page 16, you can clearly see this man Kawaki still in the smoke and hasn't begun to run yet for plot reasons. So on page 18, you get this shot of Kawaki's arm detaching as more of Naruto's life force begins to drain away from him, right? Page 19, Ichiki declares that he only has 20 seconds before he decides to kill Naruto. The deterioration of him starts to just become very apparent, and he is just desperately clinging to the remainder of his life as he's just shouting at Kawaki at this point, and leaves him with literally an ultimatum to decide between his life or Naruto's life. And you get, with the next several pages, we get a brief glimpse seeing what Kawaki was like training with Ishiki back when he was just a vessel to him, right? And that's all Ishiki thinks of him. Now the next part of the chapter is actually very interesting. We saw the training that he has with Ishiki, and then we see the training that he has with Naruto, but we don't actually get to see any of the training. We just go back to when he agreed to train him in ninjutsu that happened earlier on in the series, right? Chapter 34, page 27. The remainder of this chapter between 24 to 41 gave me 4th Great Ninja War vibes. It was ridiculous, okay? So pretty much we all saw this coming. Kawaki emerges from his hiding to confront Ishiki, and they have this short exchange of combat before Kawaki is inevitably captured, and the worst comes to fruition as the karma is reinstalled or reinstated or resealed on him, so to speak. And on Ishiki is, just as the time limit for Ishiki's body is finally up, right? But he put the mark on Kawaki, so it really doesn't matter at this point. Page 31. It really doesn't matter at this point. Page 31, you see his old body begin to literally start to break down, and on page 32 you see Kawaki's karma begin to disappear, which is kind of strange if you think about it. But basically we find out that the whole reason that the karma is disappearing is because Kawaki isn't Kawaki and is actually a shadow clone of him that he managed to pull out while he was hiding, and he was able to deceive the all-seeing eyes of Ishiki Otsutsuki as he crumbles away to dust on page 37. Now here's my problem. On page 38, Kawaki is like, quote, "It's still a work in progress. I can barely make that one." Excuse me, Kawaki? Barely? Barely? On page 25, you gave us a one-handed fire-style ninjutsu, which is vastly more difficult in performing than a simple shadow clone jutsu. Kakashi even brought this up in the past during his fight with Haku when he had seen him doing one-handed sign weaving. He says that's an elite jonin skill and that it's extremely rare amongst people, right? People can't just do one-handed sign weaving. So for Kawaki to come out and say he can only manage one, but show us he can do a one-handed signed jutsu, it doesn't make sense. Matter of fact, the best example I can give you is Tobirama, right? The second Hokage. He took the water dragon jutsu, which is the longest jutsu in terms of hand sign requirements. I think it's like 40 or something, and he shortened it down to 1. Essentially, to a lesser degree, what Kawaki just did. He gave us 1 hand sign and produced a fire style jutsu. But then goes and says, I'm still learning, I only can do 1 shadow clone, which I get. Shadow clone jutsu is considered an S-rank jutsu, but it's an S-rank jutsu because of the destructive capabilities that it possesses, not the inherent destructive nature of a jutsu. Like the Rasengan is raw power, which is why it's S rank. A shadow clone jutsu, it's like a clone within a clone, and essentially if someone masters this jutsu, they can create an army and take over nations, right? The reanimation jutsu is not in and of itself destructive, but the possibilities that one could achieve with that jutsu makes it an S rank jutsu. The shadow clone jutsu is not a hard jutsu. That's what I'm saying, okay? The clone jutsu alone is like a requirement just to get out the academy, right? The difficulty of the jutsus isn't matching up. I know this is turning into a rant. I'm sorry, but this chapter really does. Like, this chapter is gonna have to be very ass-pulley if Kishimoto is going to steer this back in the direction that he wants. I don't know what happened behind the scene with the other writers and Shueisha and all these other people who have the parts to play in Naruto and Boruto, but clearly something was happening to where Kishimoto had to come back and take the reins instead of, doing something else. I have no idea. Page 38 and 39, Sasuke begins asking Naruto about his new power, and Naruto, to his credit, is going to tell him about the drawbacks of using the powers, but just before any of this happens, possessed Boruto springs out of fucking left field, stabs Sasuke in the damn eye. His Rinnegan eye. Let's make that very clear. But we gotta pause yet again in this discussion because we have to talk about this. Last panel on page 39, what do you see? What direction is possessed Boruto coming from? Why didn't Naruto or Kawaki see him? Why didn't they say anything? Yes, I know, Otsutsukis can teleport, but from what we see in the panel, it doesn't look like he's teleporting. You have those little running speed lines in the panels that indicate he's running at Sasuke, right, from behind, and Naruto and Kawaki are facing that direction. You should be able to see him. Naruto is a sensory type. Alone, he should be able to sense him, okay? It should happen, but it doesn't, for plot reasons. Naruto and Kurama can sense chakra. How about just simply look up? I don't want to just put all the blame off on Naruto for not, sensing Boruto or sensing Momoshiki in his presence because, there is a change in terms of, chakra. Momoshiki takes over, Boruto goes back and forth. Anyway, Naruto could have sensed them, but I don't want to put all the, blame off on him because Sasuke has also demonstrated a high ability of sensing chakra, and not just any chakra, but like specifically Naruto's chakra and Otsutsuki's chakra. That was the whole reason why he was the only person who could track down information on the Otsutskis and the chakra trees and everything we saw in the anime. So even if you wanted to say, oh, it's because they all ran out of chakra, these are the 2 strongest ninjas in the entire world, literally. To make matters worse, they've already beat down Momoshiki before, and now that he's inside of Boruto, he is in a considerably weakened state than from when we saw him during the Naruto movie or at the beginning of Boruto during those recap chapters that led into Boruto becoming possessed, right? I don't care what anybody says. Naruto and Sasuke have never fought to the degree that we saw them during their tag team fight against Momoshiki, and it's disappointing to me. They've never fought to that degree again. Kurama Sasano has not been a thing since. I understand it was very theatrical and that cost money, but that's the price you pay of showing us just how far they can actually fight. And then for the remainder, anything after that, they're watered down, they're shells of themselves, they're getting stabbed, they're getting caught off guard, captured, sealed away inside of fucking pots. Like, they're babies. They're babies. The series has a reoccurring problem with insanely overpowered villains and no proper way for the protagonist to deal with them. We saw it with Madara during the 4th Great Shinobi War, and now with Ishiki. There's been a long-standing notion in the Naruto-Boruto community that they had to purposely dumb down Naruto and Sasuke's combat ability to allow the new generation to shine. Ishiki should not have been caught off guard like that because this man has been alive for hundreds of years. His combat level should have been off the fucking charts. He has a Byakugan and some other Otsutsuki exclusive eye I don't know the name of. Completely slips my mind. Do we even know? I don't know. I personally don't know the name of it. Again, I know all of this had to happen in order for Kishimoto to take the series in the direction that he wants it to go. So he has to be very careful with how he writes these past 2 chapters and pretty much the next like 10 chapters until he really gets settled into the plot line that he wants it to go in. Hopefully he doesn't have to deviate too far from what the previous writer for Boruto started with. Hopefully they didn't end on really bad blood. But that's pretty much that's pretty much it for the chapter. What do I see happening next? Well, Naruto has already been shown to have the ability to restore eyeballs to people. Okay, he gave Kakashi back his eyeball after Madara snatched it out after the war. Oddly enough, he only gave Kakashi back his regular eye, so it seems like it's possible that he can only restore what you were born with or what's genetically inherent to you. So I guess if Obito would have survived the war, he could have restored Obito's Sharingan that he had lost, or that he had gave to Kakashi, right? He could have probably restored both of Obito's eyes. Obito lost both eyes, actually, now that I think about it. It was pretty sad. But if Naruto does restore Sasuke's eyes, then he'll be fine, alright? He'll restore Sasuke's Uchiha eye, meaning in theory Sasuke he should be able to unlock his specific Sharingan and his specific Mangekyo Sharingan again. The sad part about it is he won't be able to unlock his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan because he doesn't have a second Itachi's eye. So he'll have one eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and one regular Mangekyo Sharingan. I think it's dope, but we know it's probably going to transform right back into a Renin Sharingan. All he has to do is simply get the prosthetic arm from Tsunade that has the Hashirama cells. We know it takes Hashirama cells in order to take a Sharingan to a Renin gun, right? Just get the prosthetic arm, please. Why are you insisting on fighting at a handicap? This is not the time. The globe is facing the worst enemy threat in history, and you choose to go at it at a handicap for reasons, bro. I forgive you. If that's what Kishimoto, I forgive Sasuke. Let him go get an arm, please. Also, tying back into what I was saying about Sasuke being able to unlock his Renin gun again, we know he can do that from what we saw Madara do with Kakashi's Sharingan after he had took it. It shouldn't take Sasuke that long to figure out how to use his Sharingan and unlock everything again, right? If all it takes is traumatic experience, all the man has to do is remember it, and it should boot back up just like that. It really shouldn't be a problem. We don't know how to unlock the Renin gun other than having Hashirama cells, so please Sasuke, go and get your arm and be done with this. And lastly, going back to what I said about the series actively nerfing Naruto and Sasuke, there is no good reason why Sasuke walked away without getting an arm. I'm salty about it. I'm aware they gave us a reason. I'm saying it's not a good reason. I don't know what's coming next for Boruto. It's very strange. It's not making sense. It's making sense the best way it could possibly make sense, but I have no idea what's next for Boruto. I'm just going to assume that Sasuke is going to attempt to live up to his promise, but fail, or maybe Sarada and Mitsuki are going to come and subdue Boruto in some way, shape, or form. But Sasuke did say that he would have to kill Boruto if he got possessed by Momoshiki, and we're about to see if he's going to live up to that. But he has no depth perception. I don't see him being very useful. He's missing his left eye and right arm. He has no depth perception at all. Nigga has the strongest eye in the entire world and no depth perception. I'm done. Ladies and gentlemen, that is all I have for y'all today. If you made it to the end, go plus ultra and smash the subscribe button. It lets me know you rock with the content that I put out on this channel. Like the video if you like the video. Dislike the video if you dislike the video. Share the video. Comment your thoughts. And like always, and until next time, I'm out.
Oh shit. Great job, CIA.
Game
No fuss, no
over.
fuss.
Dude, we wrecked them. Look at this. Watch this, watch this, watch this. 1, 2,
Man.
3.